Welcome to our Bears offseason recap with myself, Jake, and my buddy here, Ben. Ben, how you doing this evening?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Can't complain. Football season started.
Yes, it has. I've already got people in my DMs yelling at me for hating Gabe Davis. It's fine. Cooper
I've
Cup, though.
already I've already yelled at a quarterback at on TV for making the wrong read. Like it's all going good.
Cam Akers has 2 carries for 0 yards. Cooper Cup
Stop it.
already has like 18 and a half PPR points. So everything is back. Everything's back in full circle. But speaking of back, that means Bears football is right around the corner.
No doubt about it. I'm ready to be hurt again.
Same. Speaking of hurt, let's jump right into it. So instead of kind of doing like a traditional offseason recap where we go like month by month, talk about each of the individual moves, I think we're going to talk about the depth chart as it currently stands as of 9/6 is the most recently released depth chart. This is the official depth chart off of the Chicago Bears website. So we're just going to talk about the depth chart as it stands currently, and then the moves that we made and how those moves seemingly have worked out to date. So you ready to do that, Ben?
I was born ready.
I love to hear it.
Actually, I was born late, but that's besides the point.
All right, so let's start off. So the first position that is listed is wide receiver, with Darnell Mooney being the wide receiver one. Any surprise there whatsoever at all?
No,
Yeah,
no,
no.
that was always going to be.
Yeah.
Even if they had drafted a wide receiver like everybody wanted in the second round, it was still going to be Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, 100%. I still wish we had George Pickens, but that's a different story for another day. But hopping into the other starting wide receiver, it's Equinemius St. Brown. How we feel about that?
Um, like given unless like the thing that could make sense for me is if like which was the reason maybe they brought in Keel Harry is like that offense, the way they want it set up is they have like a specific body type and player to play a certain position.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like if your X just has to be some big dude.
Yeah, you want your X to be 6'5", 215. Like,
yeah, and we've bought into that evidently. Yeah, I had kind of hoped. Oh my god, can you hear these sirens?
I can tell you live in Chicago.
Yeah, if those go off at any time after 1 o'clock in the morning, I typically will say somebody better be dying. You would have hoped that Byron Pringle could have won the 2 spot, but obviously he's had some injuries. I don't think there was ever a way for Velus Jones to win that job out of camp.
Yeah, there's no shot, in my opinion. But
like, it wasn't going to be Dante Pettis.
Yeah. That being said, Pringle and Velus are both listed as the second string wide receivers at their respective positions. Really no shock to me whatsoever there. I do think ESB winning the wide receiver 2 role to start the season, maybe part of it is that size thing, and they are wanting a big body X out there. But I think also part of it too, he was the only one who stayed relatively healthy through most of camp. Like Velus lost time, Pringle lost time. Pettis is perpetually hurt, it feels like. Amir Smith-Marset is on the depth chart as well, but he's a very recent addition who I think could very sneakily establish himself a nice little role in this offense. But I think a lot of it just boils down to health.
I think that, and then, obviously he's played for Luke Getsy. He knows the offense like more intimately than anybody else in that room right now.
Right.
I think that's the same reason, like, they're like, we're going to play Lucas Patrick even at guard if we have to, even if it's not necessarily the smartest move for like continuity of the line. Because they're just like, he knows what they need to do, so he has to be out there.
Well, speaking of the offensive line, the current listed starters on the offensive line, you have Braxton Jones at left tackle, Cody Whitehair at left guard, Lucas Patrick at center, Tevin Jenkins at right guard, and Larry Borum at right tackle. I think we were both wrong in our predictions about what the offensive line would look like the last time we did one of these episodes. But I think it's pretty notable that we brought in a guy like Riley Reif to seemingly play left tackle And then
Yeah.
Braxton Jones just shows up in camp and says, "Hey, I don't care that I'm a 5th-round rookie that got passed on by every team at least 4 times. I'm just going to play football." And obviously, he
Mhm.
did a pretty decent job at it to win that starting job.
Yeah. I mean, I believe, if I recall correctly, like he was the highest rated like offensive tackle at the FCS level, and like his rating equated to higher, like by PFF's metric, uh, than any other offensive tackle in the draft.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, maybe he's just a guy who's a diamond in the rough, and there's going to be growing pains. Like, God knows this could be a rough game to start.
Yeah, Nick
And
Bosa
then
is not necessary. I don't think Nick Bosa is the guy you want going against your some of the best left tackles in football. I don't think you want to going against Nick
no,
Bosa.
their first play, they should use like Alex Leatherwood as a swing tackle and just run like a counter reverse to Nick Bosa and have Leatherwood just lay him out as hard as you can to
Yeah,
start the game.
I
Like
think that's your hope. Like you
ring
hope.
his bell and like let him know we're not fucking around. Um so that he's not just has his ears back and is in attack mode at all times.
Yeah. Other notable, notable offensive line. I think we both predicted that Tevin would be the starting right tackle. He's at guard after all the controversy that I had heard from people that I know that are close to the team that the Bears were never actively shopping Tevin Jenkins.
Mm-hmm.
We were getting calls about him, and of course they're listening, but who is it? You could call in Justin Fields and they're going to listen. Like
Yeah.
no players off limits, especially in a new regime. But like Tevin Jenkins, I think putting him at guard kind of allows some of his specific issues, like some of his biggest weaknesses on the football field, to be covered a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And you throw him inside, you get him next to a squirrely vet and Lucas Patrick, and
And
it's
a guy who
hard.
plays tough too.
Yeah,
And
and
you put those two next to each other in a run block and like a power run scheme.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really great move, and I understand fully why they did it. Borum, he played pretty well down the stretch as a right tackle. He clearly, they see something that they like in him, and that's great. Looking at the backups at each position, though, Riley Reef, like we mentioned, not winning the starting job. I think that's a shock for a lot of people. Is even just not being able to. Maybe he never got a chance to, but not winning the right tackle job. Maybe the injury bug caught him a little bit as well, and maybe that's part of it. But I think a lot of it just boils down to they like other guys at their spots better. Lucas
Mm-hmm.
Patrick is currently listed as the backup left guard. Sam Mustipher is listed as the backup center, which I think is a little surprising, at least for me. I don't think Sam Mustipher is very good. I've made that very, very noted. But I would almost rather Whitehair slide back over and then you plug in like Leatherwood at guard. Like I'd almost rather that. But I think scheme wise, I get why they do it, just because Mustipher does succeed most in run heavy schemes, or
Yeah.
in some of those zone runs where he can get out in space a little bit. I do understand why Mustipher has a role.
Yeah, he's like his main problem was he just wasn't ready to be a starter.
Yeah.
Like he's perfectly fine as like your sixth or seventh guy. Like
Yeah.
at least this time around, like if he comes in like for somebody being hurt like in the middle of the game, I'm not like terrified.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, all right, I know this guy at least knows how to play.
Yeah. It's something where, you can plug him in there. Who knows? Maybe if Cody Whitehair goes down, maybe they say, you know what, we're going to throw Mustipher at guard. Maybe this is just how they're putting the depth chart now. And when we get into the game, maybe things change a little bit. Who knows?
Or maybe even Jatir Carter goes in there.
He's listed as the backup right guard.
Yeah.
So, he's obviously somebody they're considering at the guard spot. And then Alex Leatherwood is currently listed as the backup right tackle. I personally thought they'd try and convert him to guard, and maybe that is something that will happen with time, but his experience in the NFL has been at tackle. He's currently, he played tackle last year very poorly, but he played tackle.
I think so. My thoughts on that, like the backup tackles situation, I think they brought Reef in expecting him to win the starting job. Now they're just kind of happy to have him as a veteran presence.
Yeah.
to like help teach these young guys because they have an extraordinarily young tackle room. Leatherwood, I honestly think he is going to win the right tackle spot by merit by the end of this year.
I wouldn't be shocked. That wouldn't catch me off guard.
I can't like he's been labeled as a bust so quickly. Like, let's just wrap our head around the situation that he was drafted into. Like, he gets drafted as a reach, fair, um, by a coach who was then investigated by the FBI for having racist and homophobic emails. And then his friend from college, Henry Ruggs, kills a person in a car crash, and then your coach gets fired. Like, that's been his experience
Yeah.
with the NFL. Like, that's not a lot of stability. I don't think most people could do their job well if those were the circumstances you were working with.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he just needed a fresh start. He's worked really well in power run schemes in college. And if one thing he does well is run blocking. Now you have Tevin and him right there. Like, your right side of the line can maul most defensive lines.
Yeah.
Just off of that.
Yeah. I think this offensive line is a lot better than people want to give it credit for. And I think it's going to
proven.
Yeah, it's a big question mark, and I fully understand that, but I think it's hard to be worse than we were last year.
Oh God, yeah.
Next up is the tight end spot. Cole Kmet, obviously starting tight end, shocker to and nobody with a pulse or who has paid attention to football over the past, I don't know, 25, 50 years. Back up to him, Ryan Griffin, no shock there for me. Jake Tongas, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I apologize. Tongas, Jake Tongas, and Trevin Wesco listed as the third and fourth stringers. Really no surprise. I don't care. Cole Kmet's the only guy that matters there. So I don't unless you want to go deep into the Ryan Griffin pool of things. I think
yeah, Cole I think is going to have a really good year. Like Justin, if you watched him in college at all, he really likes to lean on his tackles, his tight ends, pretty often. And, there's only two people who are seemingly any good as receivers right now, and it's going to be Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet. Mainly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm pretty happy with that. Ryan Griffin, he's a standard backup tight end. He'll probably steal 3 touchdowns from Cole at some point during the year.
Yeah, his career average is he basically averages like 2 a year. He had that weird year in 2019 where he had 5 touchdowns, but besides that, just mostly not a super impactful player, but a solid depth piece that I can't complain about.
Your backup, like, that was a problem with the Pace era where it was like there weren't people being put in a role, like having Jimmy Graham and Cole. And then who was the third tight end?
It was like a combination of Jesper Horsted,
and
JP Holtz, Jesse James. Like it was a constant revolving door of a body that's out there.
Right. Like, your backup should typically be a guy that can play the game, but he doesn't have to be world changing or anything like that.
And that's exactly what Ryan Griffin has been. So solid depth guy. No complaints there, really. Next up, we have the quarterback position. Really, it just matters. The backup is Trevor Siemian. I don't think that's too big of a shock. It was him or Nathan Peterman. I think I could beat out Nathan Peterman for a role as a backup quarterback in the NFL on some days. Just saying. Somebody give me a call. New York, I'm looking at you. The wing is good. After that, David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, running backs 1 and 2. Treston Ebner ends up making the team as the third stringer there over Darrington Evans, who I really like. And then we have Kari Blossingame as the listed fullback. And I think the fact that we have a listed fullback is wild to me.
No, I'm happy with it. I mean,
I just mean wild and like
we haven't done it in so long.
It's like it's just a lot of NFL teams really don't. I mean, if you think about it, like
it's just this Shanahan tree.
Yeah, basically.
That still uses it.
Yep.
And the thing is, this offensive system consistently wins. So I don't understand why more teams don't do it. Like, just burn a spot on a really good special teams fullback.
Yeah. Or just find a tight end that you have that can't block. and like teach him how to do it out of it, like teach him how
For
to
a guy
line up in the
who
backfield.
only knows how to block.
Yeah.
Like, he just only knows
Yeah.
that's all he does.
Get a 6'6", 280-pound bowling ball and just see what happens. But
Yeah.
when it comes to the offense, I outside of the offensive line, nothing really too surprising for me. But I do think the Bears did a lot better job than a lot of the media is going to give them credit for when it comes to just bringing in quality guys. We don't need superstars. It's a rebuild year. I think everybody admits it's a rebuild year, but we have a quality enough team to like make teams not just show up to Bears week and treat it like it's, the 0-16 Lions. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, well, let's talk about the defense but yeah, the Bears are getting, like, they're all saying it that they feel they're being slept on. Like, this team is not that fundamentally different, other than like the coaching and the scheme is drastically different. But in terms of like talent and players that were available on the field last year, it's not that different. Like, they're like Khalil Mack's gone. It's like the guy hardly played last year.
Yeah, he wasn't impactful even that much when he was on the field.
Akeem Hicks, it's like, yeah, we'll miss him as a spiritual leader, but he was also hurt often. Allen Robinson was checked out from like week 3.
Byron Pringle outproduced him last year. Like,
yeah,
he's also not having a great Thursday night football game. He played like 100% of the snaps so far and has 1 reception, 1 target. Like, he's not exactly like, it's not like he's lighting the world on fire for a much better team than he was on last year. But yeah, speaking of the defense, let's take a look at that. So the starters at defensive end are Robert Quinn and Al-Quadin Muhammad. I think Muhammad being the starter is a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah,
I think
Gibson's job.
Yeah, I think Gibson came on really, really strong last year, and I do think he'll end up taking the job. I think Muhammad has a better track record, and I think that's part of the reason why he's the starter. But maybe they just know. Maybe Gibson really is just best suited as a rotational player, and maybe he'll be a super impactful rotational piece who will get plenty of play time. Maybe they're just very confident they have a role that they really like him in, and they don't want to ask him to do anything extra. Maybe that's part of it.
And also, I'm pretty sure when I looked at like the snap shares for Eberflus's defense, like, their D line is constantly in rotation.
Yes, yeah, I remember that.
Rotation of fresh guys. So like, if you're the 2 defensive end in that defense, you're probably still going to play about the same amount of snaps.
Yeah,
like he might play 54, and you're going to play 46. Like, you're still going to play a ton.
Yeah. I don't imagine Quinn comes off the field too much, but I feel like it'll be a constant rotation. Plus, the current listed starting defense, it's a 4-3, and you're not going to spend every down of the game in 4-3. Like, it's just not, it's not going to happen.
You can also bring Trevis Gibson in on like obvious passing downs and put him as like the 3 technique.
Yeah.
Or even 1 technique.
You could line him up at outside linebacker and he's just blitzing. Like, there's options here that you have. It's not like everything has to be, what it is on paper right now. Listed defensive tackles are Justin Jones and Angelo Blackson. Any thoughts there? Doesn't really shock me.
No. I mean, I was shocked that they cut Mario Edwards, but if that's the way we're going to go with it, then yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. The backup at defensive end and defensive tackles. So you have Dominique Robinson and Trevis Gibson, like I said, as the backup defensive ends. The backup tackles are Armin Watts and Mike Pennell Jr. And then you also have Kingsley Jonathan as the 3rd string defensive end there. So I do think having 5 defensive ends listed on the roster right now, I do think that does signify that there is going to be some pretty frequent rotation at least. And I do think that, there's this front on the defense. Again, it doesn't have to be superstar level. If we can compete at a even slightly below league average rate, like, we're at least not getting walked over every single game.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see Armin Watts. Like, he had a good year, like, with the Vikings. Like, I'm pretty sure he had like 5.5 or 6 sacks. Like,
he had 5 sacks. He had 1 forced fumble, 21 solo tackles, 14 assisted tackles. He ended up with the 61.6 grade from PFF. So not a superstar by any means, but a very solid piece who likely, again, if you plug him in that 3 technique spot, I don't think it's really too shocking anywhere.
Yeah. And it's a guy you got who's motivated from getting cut from the Vikings.
Yeah. Always love those interdivisional fight stories. When we look over at the linebackers, you have Nicholas Morrow, Roquan Smith, and Matthew Adams listed as the starters, with Sterling Weatherford and Jack Sanborn as the backups. No shocks to me there, really.
No.
Pretty on
Matt
par.
Adams is like probably going to be on the field for like 15, 20% of the snaps.
Yeah.
I'm really glad they got Sterling Weatherford. I think that kid could be a stud. Like he matches the mold of like Darius Leonard,
right?
When he came out of college, mind you, like not who he is right now, but just like athletic freak, really big, really long.
Yeah.
Like just let Eberflus mold that around a little bit.
Yeah. And I think Sanborn too, I think he can surprise. Like I didn't have him rated super highly in the draft or anything like that, but I thought he would get drafted. I didn't think he'd necessarily be a UDFA. He comes from football lineage. Like his brother plays at Wisconsin. His dad played at Oregon, so there's some pedigree there too. And I think, again, if you're Roquan's going to be on the field for near 100% of the snaps and everyone else is going to rotate.
Yeah.
Robert Quinn's going to be on the field for near 100% of the snaps. Everyone else is going to rotate. I think that's just what it's going to be.
I think, yeah, other than that, and then like the DBs will probably be on the field for most of the game.
Yeah. Speaking of the DBs, we cut Thomas Graham. Can we have a moment of silence?
Yeah.
There we go.
Rough.
Yeah. I thought he came on super strong at the end.
I was at the game where he was playing like a G. Like,
yeah,
that was upsetting.
I thought he came on super strong the end of the year. I really thought he had a role on this team. Eberflus and company felt otherwise, and I can't do anything but trust them.
And he's not signed to the practice squad, is he?
I don't believe so. Let me live fact check this. Thomas Graham Jr. He is on the practice squad.
Okay. That's
so
good.
Could be a game day elevation. If things break a certain way, or maybe they have certain matchups they like for him and they use him in that role there. But, it's a thing. I'm going to miss him. I liked what he brought to the team, but Kyler Gordon won the starting spot. Jaquan Brisker won a starting spot.
He's my dark horse defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, there's this.
Jaquan Brisker could have a hell of a year.
This defensive back room could be sneaky good. Jalen Johnson has proven that he's not a superstar. He's not a Jalen Ramsey. He's not like a Darrelle Revis, like God tier coverage corner. But Jalen Ramsey knows how to play football. We've seen Eddie Jackson play really good football. You have 2 rookies with pedigree who, seemingly should be able to step in and play fairly well.
Right.
I don't see any problems with it.
Yeah. And then Tavon Young, who was solid nickel, not terribly psyched about Kendall Vildor, but maybe he can, rescue his career.
We also have Lamar Jackson, not the quarterback, unfortunately. And Josh Blackwell listed as the backups to Jalen Johnson, Kendall Vildor, and Jalen Jones listed as the backups to Kyler Gordon, DeAndre Houston Carson, and Elijah Hicks as the backups to Eddie Jackson, and Dane Cruikshank as the backup to Brisker. Again, it's depth corners. You're just hoping that they don't suck too bad.
Yeah.
You're hoping that they're not. You're hoping that they're not Trayvon Diggs without the interceptions. Basically, all you're hoping for.
I honestly hope, and I've been kind of holding out for it for a little bit now. I feel like the Bears should take a swing on Kevin King and just give him like
might as well
little prove it deal.
He's not been good in his NFL career, but a lot of people haven't, and then they get a prove it deal and they're fine. So, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked to see us add a couple depth pieces throughout the year too, especially if there's some of these vets that are out there that are coming back from injury, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Cole Beasley still not signed. Will Fuller, I don't know, maybe his hand fell off or something. We still don't really know what's going on there. He's kind of been media silent. some personal speculation I have on that is maybe he failed another test
That would
and
not
that's why
surprise
he's
me.
not signing. Like he's just going to get suspended anyway. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe the league
Or
knows
he
that.
knows he's gonna fail right now.
Yeah,
It's
and so
like
he's not signing to stay out of the pool. It's
yeah.
very much a possibility. But I think outside of the wide receivers on the defensive side of the ball, inevitably there's going to be some guys who become available. And I think the Bears are going to have some options to add to the room there. When it comes to like special team side of the ball, the really important stuff that we need to know. Trenton Gill's the punter. Cairo Santos is the kicker. Khalil Herbert is listed as our kick returner, and Velus Jones is listed as our punt returner. Really, no surprises. You drafted Velus Jones in the 3rd round. You would hope he can contribute right away. We know he's good on return in the return game. Hopefully, he's able to contribute.
I think they're gonna try to use him in the same way, like when Debo was not operating as well as a receiver and they were just kind of using him on end arounds. I think that's going to be his role at the start until he blossoms more as a receiver.
Yeah, and there's nothing inherently bad about that being the case. Like even if rookie wide receivers, we have a skewed view of rookie wide receivers because we've seen how good Justin Jefferson's been. CeeDee Lamb had a great start to his career. Like
Jamar Chase.
Yeah, Jamar Chase, 100%. Like we see these guys who just blow up as rookies. That is super uncommon. And I don't think people realize that even if we had a George Pickens, I wouldn't expect more than maybe like a ceiling rookie season out of him, like 6,805. Like if a rookie wide receiver goes 6,805, they had a phenomenal rookie year. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if Velus Jones has like a 40 602 season, I'll be ecstatic. Yeah. Especially when you consider the fact that like he's going to be in on the return game. Like he's always got the chance to maybe house 1 or 2 that way. Maybe he gets used in the rushing attack as well. We see him on end arounds. We see him on bubble screens. We see him on kind of like, little shovel pass end arounds. There's options there. I think he can contribute in a few different ways, but I think I think this Bears team is better than a lot of people want to give us credit for. I'm not claiming that we can win the division. I'm not claiming that we can make the playoffs. I'm not claiming anything like that. But I don't think we're ever going to be a cakewalk.
No, I like with people saying the Bears are going to be bad. It's like, yeah, the Bears will probably be that team we were like when we went to the playoffs against the Saints. Like we're probably still going to like I don't think the floor for this team right now is 2-15.
Yeah, no,
it feels more like 6-11, 7-10.
Yeah.
Maybe 5-12. But the ceiling's probably like 9-8, 10, 10-7.
Mm-hmm.
We probably end up somewhere in the middle there. I think 7-10 makes the most sense, but maybe 8-9.
Yeah,
numbers now.
So speaking of the season, let's take a look. We did this earlier in the year, earlier in the offseason, but now that we know more about not only how the Bears how their roster outlook is, but now we know more about other teams in the league as well. Let's run through these games real quick and kind of see what we think. So week 1, we've got at home against the 49ers. It's going to rain. It's going to rain all weekend. How do you see this game going down?
I think the Bears can win. I think they can purely from the standpoint. I think this is the same thing as last year where they beat the Bengals. I think Trey Lance is going to be a really good quarterback. I think he's going into a game where like the Colts played really well defensively against the 49ers last year. Granted, it's different players, but I think Eberflus and Allen Williams kind of know how to scheme against it.
Right.
And you're scheming against a rookie quarterback who's thrown 500 passes in college, did not play a whole lot. I think you bring out the most confusing coverages you can think. I just think they're gonna like Trey Lance will at some point be able to beat that defense, but I think he's going to get a little bit overwhelmed in terms of what he's seeing, and it's going to slow the game down enough that the Bears could pull it off.
I don't think we can pull it off, but I do think it'll be a closer game than it otherwise would be. I think the rain helps us keeping the ball on the ground, keeping everything contained. I think there's potential there. Especially if there's any shakiness with Elijah Mitchell early, which we all know how I feel about him. I love Elijah Mitchell. I loved him coming out. Probably higher on him than just about anybody in the industry in any way, shape, or form. I think there's potential there for him to have a really big game. But if we can eliminate him a little bit early, if we can make them throw the ball early, if we can get out to an early lead, I do think it'll be an interesting game. But I'm going to chalk this game up probably as an L.
I will, just for sake of variety and to be hopeful at the start, I'm going to say Bears win a surprising one.
All right. Week 2 at Lambeau. Green Bay doesn't really have a wide receiver that's worth anything there. They have a rookie in Christian Watson who really hasn't practiced, really hasn't done anything. Allen Lazard got stepped on, may not be active for the game. Robert Tonyan's still coming back from his knee injury, his ACL. So there's questions there. 2 really good running backs, though. Obviously, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and Aaron Rodgers. I think we lose the game, but again, I think it's one where, especially if our defensive backs are as average or slightly above average as I think they can be, I don't see that it being, I just don't see it being a blowout in any way, shape, or form. I think it's a 21-17 game.
Yeah. I think the Bears cover, but I think they lose.
Yeah.
As long as they look better than they did last year, that's all I'm asking for.
Yeah. Agreed. Next up, week 3, we have the Houston Texans. I think that's a win. They're projected to be, in my opinion, one of the worst teams in football.
Sorry to do it to you, Lovey, but we gotta house you.
Exactly. They have Brandon Cooks.
That's about it.
That's it. Yeah, you got a couple decent offensive linemen. You got a couple pieces here and there.
Yeah,
but it's just like
other client.
Yeah, it's not great, Bob. I don't know. Nico Collins isn't that good. Dameon Pierce, I love Dameon Pierce, but he's wildly overrated right now. Brevin Jordan isn't even listed as the starting tight end. Like, there's just so many offensive concerns for them. It's not even counting how bad their defense is projected to be. I think at least through week 3, we get our first win and we're 1-2 going into week 4.
Yeah, I've got us at 2-1, but I definitely think we're 1-2 by the end.
All right, week 4 versus New York, the Giants.
Win.
You think a win?
Yeah.
I think we get our asses kicked. I think we get. I think Saquon runs all over us. I think Kadarius Toney, if healthy, drops like 8 for 120 and 2 on us. I think this team is just going to play too quick for us. Every single wide receiver on that roster runs like a 4-2, and it seems super tricky, good possession guys. If Daniel Jones doesn't turn the ball over 3 times, I think New York beats us.
That's such a huge if.
But again, this is one of those games where I'm saying all of this, but if we blew them out, I would not be shocked.
Yeah.
If the defense plays well, they contain Saquon basically.
Or yes, contain. Like, we're probably not gonna stop Saquon, but as long as we just limit the damage, get a decent enough lead where they have to pass, and then you're like, all right, we just have to beat Daniel Jones, which everybody in the NFL has figured out how to do at this point.
Yeah. It could go either way. I'm gonna chalk this up as a loss, though.
All right.
I'm gonna be 1-3. You have us at 3-1. We're off to a great start for you.
Yeah. Wu-Tang.
Week 5 at Minnesota. I think we get dog walked out of the stadium.
I think we lose. We probably lose that game.
Pretty easy to understand why, too.
Is it a night game?
It is a 12 o'clock game.
Damn.
We don't get Kirk Cousins prime time.
Yeah.
Week 6, quick turnaround, 4-day turnaround. It's a Thursday night game against the Commanders. I think we win that one.
Win.
I think
Yeah.
Carson Wentz isn't. I like Carson Wentz. I'm noted as being the high guy apparently on Carson Wentz. I still don't think he's good, but he's better than people want to give him credit for. But again, defense projected to be not so great. It was supposed to be one of the best in football last year. Really shit the bed. Offense, outside of their top talent, I like Jahan Dotson. Again, I don't expect a rookie to contribute that much. A lot of questions in the running back room. Who's their tight end? Who's their wide receiver if Dotson can't really do much? Like, just too many meh points for them to really do much of anything.
Our entire most of our defensive staff watched Carson Wentz in practice every day last year.
Yeah.
So if anyone knows how to screw him up, it's going to be them.
100%. Should be 2-4 in my opinion through week 6. Week 7 at New England.
Loss.
I think we win this one.
Really? I think we could have a close loss, but I don't think we're going to win.
I think
unless
that
the Pats offense is as dog shit as it could be.
I think that Matt Patricia and Joe Judge are calling offensive plays. Their wide receivers, by and large, aren't great. Their running backs are in a committee. Their tight ends are in a committee. Their offensive line isn't that great. Their defense lost some of their best players. This is the most winnable game that I think would surprise people. And I think
with that argument, I could see it. I do think we lose, but if we won, I would not be surprised.
I'm going to have us at 3-4 after the New England game.
I think I have us at 4-3.
Week 8 against Dallas.
At Dallas.
Yeah,
we're probably losing that game.
Yeah, especially if people are healthy. Like, assume Gallup's back by week 8. Their offensive line hopefully is looking a little bit better. If not, Tony Pollard's probably playing a big role out of the slot. Kendall Bedore can't cover Tony Pollard to save his life if he had to. I think that's a loss. I think I got us at 3-5 through week 8.
I think I have us at 4-4.
Week 9 against Miami. Again, I think we get dog walked.
I think we win.
I just don't see it. Again,
I think Tua Tagovailoa is that bad.
I used to be on that train. I think Tua is better. But here's my argument there. Tua doesn't even have to be that good of a quarterback this year. When you can get the ball just in the hands of Tyreek Hill, in the hands of Jalen Waddle, in the hands of Mike Gesicki, in the hands of one of the 9 running backs that are active that week.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, this is a system I think we can beat if it's one of those games where I think we can win it, but everything has to go. We cannot make a mistake or we lose this game.
I think this is a game where if Matt Eberflus is as good of a coach as he comes across, like he seems to is like a leader of men.
Mm-hmm.
Where
right.
Like he rallies his guys, they fight for him. I think this could be a game where Matt Eberflus out coaches Mike McDaniel.
I could see that.
Like, Mike McDaniel's a fairly inexperienced coach, and has just kind of skyrocketed from being involved in the Shanahan tree, and he might end up being a terrific coach. But yeah, I think it could be a scenario where we, similar to the Trey Lance thing, where you just kind of confuse them and kind of hit them when you need to.
All right. You've got us at 5-4. I've got us at 3-6. Week 10 versus Detroit.
Win.
I would love to confidently say I do think we win it, but I don't think it's as easy of a game as it should be.
No, it won't, but I'm not prepared to live in a world where Detroit is better than us.
Same. But I have us at 4-6. You have us at 6-4?
Yeah. But if I recall correctly, this is about to get rough.
Week 11 versus Atlanta.
Win.
Should win that one.
Is that at Atlanta?
That is at Atlanta.
I think Justin Fields is going to pop off for that game.
I sure hope so. I'm going to put it down as a win, but again, it's one I could see us lose. But I've got us, 5-6? You have us 7-4?
Yeah. All right. See.
Week 12 against the Jets.
Win.
Again, I would love to say win. I just don't think I can.
I just don't think Zach. Well, until I see it, I don't believe in Zach Wilson that much.
I'm just not sure we have to believe in Zach Wilson that much.
I think Brees Hall is going to be really good, but like until they're not the Jets, they're the Jets.
I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna put it
Okay.
as a loss because I can't see us being 8-4 like you can
I mean
apparently.
that's fair. I think I'm probably, if I recall correctly, we're gonna derail here. I think I'm gonna end up being 9-8 if I remember the schedule correctly.
All right, you've got us 8-4. I've got
Yeah.
us. What did I say? 5-7.
I don't
Yeah,
know who I had. I might need to run through the games because I
five and
am starting
seven.
to doubt myself.
Week 13, Green Bay.
Loss.
I think we lose. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've
I
got us
just want to
five,
see growth.
5-8, 8-5. Week 14 is a bye. Week 15 is Philly. I think we get shit on.
Loss. Yeah, that's gonna be
5-9 for me. Week 16 Buffalo.
loss.
5-10 for me. Week 17 Detroit. I think we win this one.
Win.
I think we win. I think the most Bears thing to do would be to lose at home and then beat Detroit on the road
on Thanksgiving.
on Thanksgiving. That's
Yeah.
not a Thanksgiving game though.
No, it's not. Damn
no,
it! I love ruining their holiday.
no, that's New Year's Day.
Oh well, you know what? Just good.
And then
Just when they think their years start, it's a brand new slate.
week 18 versus Minnesota. I think we win just because I think Minnesota doesn't care about that game. I think they're in the playoffs and everybody takes a rest.
Is that at home?
It is at home.
Oof. Yeah, I'll take a win. Yeah,
which means I've got us at 7-10. You have us at 9-8 or 10-7.
Oh, I think I have 10-7. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can live with that. I think that's the ceiling.
I was going to say, I think that's a reasonable range of outcomes.
Yeah.
Like
they'll probably fall somewhere in the middle.
I think I'm closer to our floor. I think 6-11 is probably our floor. Yeah. And I think
10-7 is
I think 10-7 is probably pure ceiling unless everything goes perfectly. But 10-7.
Yeah, or barring an injury to a major player on a
right.
team. Like if God forbid Aaron Rodgers goes down. I don't want to put bad juju for his next ayahuasca trip. If he goes down, suddenly those Packers games seem extremely winnable.
Definitely. Yeah. Or if you have a big injury to one of AJ Dillon or Aaron Jones, if Kirk Cousins goes down, that game, those games get interesting. I'm trying to think of who else. Like I just closed the schedule, of course, on accident.
Eagles.
Yeah. If Hurts goes down, that game gets interesting. I don't even know who the backup is there this year.
Is it
still Minshew? Or did he go somewhere else?
No, I thought he went somewhere else.
No, still Minshew. And then Ian Book. I think we can beat. I think we can win if we have to play Gardner Minshew. I think if Saquon gets hurt again, I think week 4 gets more interesting. We'll dog walk Taylor Heineke if he's the starting quarterback for the Commanders.
Yeah,
if Dak gets hurt again, like we basically need we need quarterbacks to get hurt. That's our hope. Like not our hope, not our hope, but realistically, like for us to be like a 12-6 team out of nowhere, we're gonna need some guys to have some pretty either clunkers and just like have them like their 4-pick game of the year is against us, or they're gonna have to get hurt. And I think that's the only way we approach a ceiling outcome where we make the playoffs.
Yeah. I think maybe best case scenario is sneak into the wild card.
Yeah, 100%.
I would love for that to happen. What I don't want to happen this time, or I hope that Ryan Poles is a more like calm and collected GM, because when they came out of nowhere in 2018, it like pushed overdrive on every move they were making, where it's like every move was to get to the Super Bowl then.
Right.
And it wasn't about building the best team. It was just about like suddenly trying to make things click. And it just wasn't possible. So like if we just like snuck into the wild card, I'd be happy with that. But if we suddenly went, I mean, I'm not going to bitch and moan about going 12-6, but
Yeah.
like I would be worried that it would cause the same fervor and pressure.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'd rather us go like fucking 1-16, have a great draft pick, flip it for multiple firsts for some team that's desperate for a quarterback.
Yeah,
But that's
or get
not.
that kid out of LSU,
Yeah,
Keyshawn Boutier.
yeah, boot. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm terrible
Lamar
with last
Jackson.
names, but yeah, there's a lot of great options here. I think best case scenario though is we probably end up with like the 8th pick.
Yeah,
One of the two quarterbacks falls, whether that's Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. That or Anthony Richardson turns into a god for the rest of the year and works his way into top contention there. And you have the 8th pick, a team gets desperate, overpays for that pick, and you get additional capital out of it. I think that's really the only. I think that's probably like best case scenario.
yeah. I wouldn't be mad either if we ended up with the left tackle from Northwestern, Skaronski.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he's who you pick in the top 10, and it's like, hey, we're gonna move Braxton to right. If he's played well enough, if he hasn't, then you're like,
Mm-hmm.
awesome, now we found our left tackle.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of different ways that it could go, and we'll keep doing recaps of each of the games that happen. And as we start to get closer to seeing what those draft picks are going to turn into, obviously we'll continue doing these episodes and keep talking about it. But I think the Bears team is going to surprise a lot of people this year.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome, Ben.
Brisker for defensive rookie of the year.
I like it. I like the call. I like the confidence in the call. I
was $15 confident about that.
You love to see it. But Ben, thank you so much for hopping on with me, man. I appreciate it.
Of course, man.
Well, we will, like I said, continue to do these episodes throughout the year. So make sure you guys come back if you did like the content. If you want us to keep doing the content, I don't care. We're going to do it anyway. That's the perks of this being on my YouTube channel. So
there you go.
We get to continue to just enjoy Bears football, hopefully for another year. I'm happy football's back. I needed this, but we will see you guys most likely in our week 1 recap. If not, if we can't make an episode happen for whatever reason, we'll at least recap everything that we can next time we are on. But we will see you all in the next episode. Later.